Hello everyone, this is In-Game Arts with another boxing and an offline product game review. This is XCOM 2 Collection for the PlayStation 4, but being played and tested on my PlayStation 5. To jump right into it, this physical copy here comes with the update version 1.06 on disc, and at the time of this video, there were no updates available. So this is the most updated version of XCOM 2 on disc, which is extremely nice to see. And as well, this does include all current release DLC on disc as well. So it comes with XCOM 2, the campaign, XCOM 2, the War of the Chosen, as well as the Anarchy DLC, the Resistance DLC, the Hunters DLC, as well as the Shin's Legacy DLC. All that's on disc. So it's the most complete updated version of XCOM 2 on disc, which is extremely nice to see. Now, it will install XCOM 2 and XCOM 2 War of the Chosen at the same time, so you cannot pick and choose which one you want. You have to get it all at the same time as one set. So that, keep that in mind about how much storage space it's going to take up. I do want to point out there was another DLC that was released called the Tactical Legacy Pack. Now, this Tactical Legacy Pack DLC never released for console. It is a PC exclusive DLC content. So that is disappointing that that's not on the disc or that never got released on console. But again, that's not really the physical copy's fault because it's just not available. They never released that DLC content for console. So can't really get onto the physical copy for that because it's just was never available, and it's still not available for console. So again, that's very disappointing that that's missing, but at least everything else that did release on console is on disc in this collection, which is amazing to see. Now, to immediately point out, as I said, it comes with XCOM 2 and as well as XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. If you don't know, and I wish I would have known this ahead of time, that the War of the Chosen is just XCOM 2. It's just more of a, updated, expanded version of the game. I think why they included both of them and to just make it War of the Chosen is that some people may prefer the original, which they dub as XCOM 2 Legacy. There's just certain alterations that the War of the Chosen does to XCOM 2 that may not be for everyone. To me, if you ask me, I would just recommend just jumping immediately to War of the Chosen, or at the very least, like I did, play a little bit or a good portion of the Legacy version, just XCOM 2. See how the game originally was when they first released it. Once you got a good bearing of what it was, then immediately just stop playing that and then immediately jump to War of the Chosen. That way you can get a little bit more appreciation and see everything that they've altered in War of the Chosen. Again, it's the same story and everything. Actually, it's the same story and more. So you get more content, more characters, more enemies, more classes, and more missions. It's just a bigger, wider version of XCOM 2. So don't even worry about the Legacy version. Like I said, just play it a little bit and then immediately jump to the War of the Chosen. That's what I had to do. Now, I did beat it, but sadly, I did have to beat the game on easy, simply because I didn't want to spend a great portion of my time trying to get through this game. If you don't know, XCOM 2 is a very challenging and very unforgiving game, depending on RNG. And that is the biggest flaw, in my personal opinion, about XCOM 2, but I will go into details later. First off, immediately heads up, once you start up War of the Chosen, make sure you go to advanced options. There's a lot more alterations you can do in the settings, like increasing the timer on missions, increasing the avatar project timer. So if you're maybe your first time playing the game, you might want to turn those on, because that way you can get a bearing of the game than having like try to complete this mission in 8 turns. Instead, now you'll have 16 turns. It will make it a little bit more comfortable for your first time playing it. As well as that, make sure you disable the integrated content and turn on Alien Hunter DLC and stuff. You'll get more content doing that. But I do want to immediately point out, I'm sorry, that's a lot of stuff. Once you turn on the Alien Hunter DLC, do not do that DLC, which I think is called the Nest DLC, which will pop up as like a mission. Don't do that until you are 100% ready, when you got like, I say, level 2 equipment, or possibly just started in level 3 equipment, because man, they will throw super hard boss enemies at you that can just completely wipe you out and actually completely stop progression of your campaign. So just keep that in mind. I do recommend the content. Just make sure you do that mission when you're ready. Now, about the problems. First off, audio bugs. There was some massive audio bug issues and problems and stuff like that. Sometimes like audio would just loop itself. Like I overwatched an enemy and shot him before he ran to his location, and the audio was just like constantly playing that running sound, as well as some graphical hiccups, like the character would break the glass, but the glass wouldn't break, and then like a few extra frames later, then the glass would break, stuff like that. Some pretty long loading times that may be annoying for some people, as well as that I had sometimes where the audio, we like broadcasting the mission or something like that, it would kind of get stuck and his mouth would just constantly be moving, but no audio was coming out, and the HUD, the broadcast thing wouldn't go away. There was a few times when that, only when that was happening, like the game would try to show me something and stay locked at that for a very long time. Don't worry, it didn't freeze or like lock up or anything like that. Just give it some time and eventually we'll go back to the game. At least that's what happened every single time it happened to me. As well, I do want to point out, I did play, like I said, the Legacy XCOM 2, and when I jumped to War of the Chosen ran a lot better than the Legacy XCOM 2. So just keep that in mind as well. The game seemed to load faster, the animations were a lot smoother, and just overall gameplay just felt a lot better, in my personal opinion, in War of the Chosen. So again, that might be something why you should try out the Legacy first to see the difference between the games. But again, the problem is that the game will constantly feel like at any moment it's going to crash, and which I did have the game crash. I did have the game crashed 4 times on me. Thankfully, the game is pretty forgiving in terms of always auto-saving, but I do recommend constantly making saves, like before you start a mission, right as this mission starts, just always constantly saving. Have like 5 saves, that way you have a backup in case something goes wrong, or possibly a game or your save corrupting. You just have backups of saves, because the game feels very unstable at many times. I didn't come across any game-breaking bugs that prevented me from progressing or unlocking anything, but it just feels like at any minute something could happen. But other than that, that's the only real problem. The amazing thing is that this is a complete physical copy. That's just so rare to have no updates, all DLC content on disc, and I highly recommend it for that. But the only problem is that XCOM 2 is a game that's going to not be for everyone. That the game is very challenging and very difficult, but not in terms of difficult in, like, let's say, Dark Souls, where it's difficult because the enemy is tough. The problem, main challenge, is that RNG. There's just so much RNG in this game that it could just be straight up bad luck. And while this is generally a problem, let's say roguelikes, where roguelikes are meant to be a bad luck or good luck kind of system, they're designed to be quick. You can immediately jump into a next run if you had a lot of bad luck. Well, something like XCOM, if you have a slew of bad luck, you could be like several hours, maybe 10, 15 hours into the game, and then you could just get a bunch of bad luck all in a row and completely ruin your experience or ruin your campaign. It can happen, and it's very frustrating that there's very little you can really do in terms of preparing this RNG. I went online and tried to see what people have said about this stuff, and a lot of people just said try not to focus on weaponry with percentage. Look at weapons like grenades, grenade launchers, and stuff like that, or look at any things that can increase your odds of a hitting attack. Which is fair, yes, but it's just frustrating that when an enemy is literally 1 block from you, and some reason the character only has like a 70 to 80% chance of hitting, and they miss the shot. I don't really care what anyone's got to say. That's just frustrating. That just doesn't really feel like that how it should be and how it should work. And I hate there is a saying in XCOM called "That's XCOM, baby." And I hate that saying. That just is a defense to protect bad game design. And it's like when people say, get good. I hate that phrase too. It means nothing. It's just a word you say to validate your, I guess, your ego or something like that. I don't get it. Somebody who actually plays hard games and challenges, I don't understand this ego trip of playing get good or XCOM baby. That I don't understand that stuff. I want games to improve and do better. And while I did enjoy the game, don't get me wrong, I did play the game on easy, don't get me wrong on that. And I did still have fun with the game. I still enjoyed it. I don't like the timer, all the time missions, but I do like how the War of the Chosen allowed me to double the time. That made it a lot more enjoyable. And it's like a love-hate relationship. I love many mechanics in the game, and I love the overall feel, the overall look, the graphics, the style, the gameplay. It's all there. Just certain RNG moments, certain things that just felt like they just completely out of my hands. Like, I don't really enjoy that. It almost feels like a form of trial and error, but it's not really trial and error. You're just banging your head. You're not. The best way I can describe it is that you feel like you're playing against the game, not with the game. And why I say that is that every single turn in the moment, it feels like you're trying to see how much you can tolerate before you give up or need to take a break. It's just all these things that can happen that can really just frustrate the experience. And no, I am not above the idea of save scumming, because there are so many times in the game that it's just felt cheap. It felt unfair. It's like, how was I even remotely have a chance of winning this? And it's just, I know there's going to be some people who would just feel completely opposite of this and feel like that's how the game is. I don't agree with this. But in the end, this is still a phenomenal game. I love them, and I'm glad to have this most updated version physically. I could not believe they actually released that, and I highly recommend it for that. But man, you gotta better be ready for what you're going to be getting into, because the game will give you a run for your money if you want to try to complete the game, especially if you're going anything higher than easy, because I did play the game significantly because I was still enjoying the game and I wanted to run through the game a little bit more on normal mode and while I was enjoying it. But man, just certain moments that just so frustrating, that just felt unfair to me. But in the end, this is still a phenomenal physical copy. It is a little janky. It feels a little, it definitely feels unfinished, even though there's no more updates. The people who made the console version was not the same studio that made the PC version. They just basically ported that game over, and then they kind of just stopped supporting the game. That's why there's no more updates. And you could tell that there was still some tweaking and fixing that needed to be done in the game. But at the end of the day, I do recommend play a little bit of the Legacy version, then immediately jump to the War of the Chosen. That runs a lot better, has a lot more content, and a lot more enjoyment for the game, a lot more options too, so you can fine-tune the game to your enjoyment. In the end, it's still 100% worth a pickup. You should definitely check it out, especially if you're a fan of tactical games like this and challenging games and so on and so forth. So like always, thank you all so much for watching. I will try to leave links down in the description if you're interested in copying, and I'll see you all in my next unboxing video. Bye-bye!